Hey guys, Dawn Bradley here. I'm going to be showing you today the simplest brunette balayage that anyone can do. This is my model Eden, and we are going to be taking her hair super low maintenance with high impact. But before we get into it, make sure you click the subscribe and hit the bell for reminders, because I'm going to be coming at you each and every week with new videos that you are not going to want to miss. So Eden's hair here has never been colored, right?
No, never.
No, and so this is like a hairdresser's dream. We're gonna go for high impact, beautiful color that's really low maintenance, that's gonna save her money and me time, which is a total win-win. So let's get right into it.
So first things first, I'm going to mix up my clay lightener. You can see here that I'm using Redken Freehand. I love it. It seems to give me a little extra lift. I've also used Oligo, I've used Pravana, I've used Solaris. If you want to learn how to mix up your clay lightener to get the best application and the best lift, go ahead and click that link in the right top corner and watch my video on all about how to mix up your clay lightener. And I'll give you a little secret. It's about avoiding the manufacturer's instructions. Yeah, my other secret weapon is having a wet towel whenever I balayage. It makes cleaning off your gloves so much easier, and you're going to save so much time and accidental blotches on the hair. So that is my big trick there. Okay, so you can see I am parting Eden's hair here, and I'm going to start in the back. So I'm making sure those front two sections get out of the way, and I take triangle inspired shaped sections. You can see right here. There you go. The other thing I do is I keep the lightener on the back of my hand and I apply it on the flat side of the brush, because you can see as I'm applying, I'm not using the end of the bristles, which we're used to using when we foil, but this is completely different. So using that flat side of the brush to get a nice smooth application, using a lot of pressure. The one thing I see most stylists do is they're scared of applying the lightener with good pressure. They lay it on really nice and light, and then it doesn't actually work into the cuticle of the hair, which then means you don't get any lift. You can see I worked on both sides there, and now on the ends there, I'm making sure it's all, there's Walter's nose popping in, seeing what's going up. But both sides there, staggering it, and then wiping off my hands in between. Game changer, the wet towel. I tell you, this will change your balayage game completely. Have a damp towel there. It makes wiping off the product off your gloves in between applications so much easier. So there you can see I'm going to the other side, triangle inspired section. The reason why I do the triangle inspired, so you know, is that it creates this ribbon effect on the ends of the hair, and it looks like more natural highlights. Because when you think about taking a foil, it's a skinny little strand that's vertical or horizontal. But when you take more of a geometric shape, like a triangle, it's like a little clump of hair. The way your hair kind of, naturally textured hair or wavy hair, it always kind of falls in pieces, and it doesn't fall the way you'd put it into a foil. So I take triangle inspired sections. You can see there I'm taking my next triangle, going more vertically. And then that way the color looks like ribbons of color rather than stacked lines of color, the way you would get with foils, if that makes sense. So applying quite high up, because underneath you can apply quite high up and still maintain that rooted look. Going to the flip side of that section, applying there, but I always apply lower on the interior section, because that hair wouldn't actually, if you were thinking of the way the sun works and how the hair would get highlighted naturally, internal sections within the hair that aren't around a part line or that's not seen isn't going to get highlighted as high up. So keeping it there, you can see I'm working on from like around the hairline. So once again, triangle inspired section, applying on the outside higher up, creating that blend with the flat side of the brush. I can't stress that enough. Do not use the bristles, the ends of it. Pretend that there's something on the end. You want to use the flat side, almost like clapping the product on. You can see it's also really opaque. I don't want to be, if I can see the hair through the lightener, I know I'm not going to get max lift. The only place I should see the hair through the lightener is during that blend, because the way I create these blends actually eliminates the need for shadow rooting. Isn't that freaking amazing? Like, I don't know about you, but like shadow rooting looks nice, but it's a whole nother step, which adds more product and adds more time to the appointment. If you can create the blend like this, as you can see up at the top there, create the blend right on the hair, there's no need to shadow root. It actually creates the blend on the strand of hair because the product gets thinner, therefore it lifts less and less during that blend. So here you can see I made a really big U shape. This is what's going to help with creating that rooted look, because there's a difference between a rooted look and having roots. Taking a perpendicular section, I work in a bricklay pattern, taking that section down, now pulling up a triangle inspired shape. There we go, leaving some out because I don't need all of her ends to be light. I still want depth and dimension. And then going in and blending. You can see the flat side of the brush there again. You're gonna hear a lot of repetitiveness in this video, but I really want that to sink in. Take that friggin' damn towel again and wipe off your gloves. You don't want a bunch of splotches or accidental, like, let me tell you, there's one time that I didn't get between my fingers and I got a whole big clump of bleach on. The cool thing about clay lightener though is that it's really forgiving. So you'll see in my videos here and there a little piece of lightener on the hair, and it's not that big of a deal because clay lightener, unless it's been pushed into the hair, doesn't really lift. So it's not like getting the rest of the lightener, like a regular lightener, on and it getting like a bleed mark. Again, perpendicular sections, going in a bricklay pattern, taking a triangle, wow, that was tough, triangle inspired section, flat side of the brush, clapping the product on, really pushing it into the hair, but only getting it on that top layer. I'm not getting it underneath, right? It's not until I flip it over and work on the other side. Making sure the product is completely opaque. If you can see the hair through it, it's not gonna get max lift. And then working it through the ends to make sure the ends are fully saturated. You can see once again, going back and forth, perpendicular sections, back of the hand, flat side of the brush. Yep, it's very, very repetitive, and it almost might seem too simple, but less is more, especially with brunettes. The one thing I want you to walk away with for sure from this video is knowing the percentages. If you want hair to appear, if you want a brunette to look like blonde, you want to highlight more than 50%. But if you want to maintain her brunetteness with some highlights, keep the highlights less than 50% of her hair. And so knowing that with brunettes, a lot of times people over highlight their hair and they end up with less dimension because it's too over highlighted or making them look too light. It's more about placement and pop rather than amount of highlights. And let me tell you, I used to be an over highlighter too. I used to think people are paying me for the amount of highlights I'm giving them, so I need to give them as much as possible. People are paying you for an end result. So be strategic, know the percentages. You only need to highlight like 30 to 40% of the hair when doing a brunette if they want to maintain looking like a brunette. Now with Eden's hair, she's kind of like in between, like a level 5, 6 color. I'm doing probably about 50% because I want to give her a little bit of brightness, a really soft, like bronzy look at the end. So I'm not going for max pop, but I'm giving her kind of like a blended look to end it all up with. But I want you to remember that about brunettes, is that unless they're trying to be a blonde, keep the highlights less than 50% of their hair. Know that you're gonna have more hair left out than that's actually getting highlighted. There's that towel again. More hair left out, and that's okay. That's part of what people are paying you for, is your knowledge and skill, not how many highlights you're putting in. Okay, here's a really important part, is the crown. What I see happen is people want to create that rooted look, but they go too high up in the crown. So this section's really important. You want to make sure that you're keeping it lower down here so you have room to bring it higher up around the front for that money piece. So here I'm bringing it, I'm going to look at the sections. You can see I created that U shape. I'm looking at where her hair parts naturally, keeping that dip there. Lots of room to bring the highlights higher up around the front. You do not need to take this section too high. The highlights can be applied a little bit lower. I'm also working with that natural part on her hair, and I'm going to pull it and I'm going to apply it so that I maintain that U. It connects with those other highlights. So starting a little bit lower, keeping the blend. It's going to look so awesome. I can't wait for you to see the final look. All right, onto the sides. This is really important. So I want to keep the highlights off of her face for one. So I'm kind of angling it back and up so that when I lay the highlights down, they lay off her face, because there's nothing worse than having someone sit there while they process with a bunch of lightener in their face. You can see I'm pulling it back. So if she was to pull her hair in a ponytail, this highlight would still show up. And I'm using quite a wide section. I'm still blending using the flat side of my brush. This way, when her hair pulls up, it's going to look really pretty and lighter and really natural looking, because once again, she's not like a level 4 or lower. If she was a level 4 or darker, I would apply higher up internally and lower externally so that it didn't look like she had racing stripes. But with Eden's kind of like mid brunette look that she can go lighter and she can pull it off, I still want it to look brighter around her hairline. So then here I want to go perpendicular, And I'm not over highlight. This is where I see, and myself included, used to get stressed out about the sides because I'm like, there's not a lot of hair. What do I highlight? What do I not highlight? I'm making sure I stick around the hairline. Now, once again, if she was a level 4 wanting to maintain her darkness, I wouldn't apply that high up around the face. But because she's kind of like that 5, 6, level 6, level 5, kind of in between, and she can pull off a lighter look, I'm giving her still a couple of inches of roots, but keeping her highlights nice and bright around the face. So when she pulls it up, it looks like she's nice and sun-kissed and was on a hot vacation during COVID. Now, once again, perpendicular, triangle. My goodness, I'm having a hard time saying that. Triangle inspired section, applying it on, making sure that I keep in mind where the highlights were in the back so that I can keep this like U pattern. It's a U-shaped pattern in the back, and then when it comes around to the front, I almost call it like a teardrop where it meets right where the hair parts in the front, and that's the money piece, is like the tip of the teardrop. So then once again, working my way forward, triangle inspired section, keeping the highlights low. I want to keep her a very rooted look without looking like she has roots. Do you know what I'm saying when I say that? Like a rooted look. And when I first started balayaging and ombre and all that stuff was becoming a thing, I gave a lot of people a look like they had roots, like they hadn't got their hair done in 6 months, where a rooted look looks fresh and new, but it doesn't look right up to the root. Now, here's the most important piece. I'm going around the front of her hairline. It's that money piece. I'm going closer to the root, and I'm applying on both sides. This is the really cool thing about this type of balayage, is that you can move the hair around. You want to keep the hair at a 90-degree angle so you can apply on both sides. So not only when she wears her hair down will this piece be brighter, but also when she wears her hair up. And a lot of times with the techniques like foliage and stuff like that, no harm, no foul, those are great techniques, but you don't have the versatility. It's either you see it when it's down or it looks like a racer stripe when it's up. This is still, that blend is gonna look really great. You can see I go really high up right at the peak of that and kind of go angled down on either side. So when she wears her hair back in a ponytail, it's gonna look like a smooth transition, but still have some pop. And then also when she wears her hair down, she'll get some pop. So that's the really cool thing about this, is that it's a lot more versatile. It looks a lot more natural while still having some pop to it. And it gives her the ability to wear it longer without having to get it redone, which is pretty cool. So I go all the way to the ends, I apply and saturate through there so that she gets that ribbon effect. And there's that money piece. And then what I make sure that money piece pops is I apply really low down at the next section. I want some a dark depth to it right next to it. Because if I put a highlight right next to it, it's just gonna wash it out. It's like having a white piece of paper and then putting an off-white piece of paper beside it. The white piece of paper doesn't look so bright. Now, here's how I check it. Once it dries and it's sat on for at least half an hour to 45 minutes, sometimes over an hour, and it's dry, I know that it's done processing. So I can chip it away and you can see, oh, I got some really nice lift out of it. I go around and I check like the first piece that I did, and then check around the hairline, see if this one, that's one of the last ones that I applied to, checking it, making sure to get their eyes closed because it is pretty messy, but you can see, oh, there's some nice lift I got out of there. That's awesome. It's gonna look so good. So I go and rinse it. Walter's keeping a close eye on us, of course. Rinse it out and tone it. And I only have to use one toner. I don't have to shadow root her, which is really, really awesome. So this is what we do here. Let her relax at the sink and enjoy this part of her appointment. So there you can see we got some pretty good lift. Her hair did go pretty warm. It's always a gamble when someone hasn't colored their hair before and it's your first time coloring their hair. Her hair looks like it'll be that kind that will lift really great. And then I actually found it to be a little bit more resistant. We got some good lift. It was awesome. I can't wait to get my hands in her hair a second time, but that's where custom consultations come into play, because 9 times out of 10 we'll be like, this kind of hair lifts this way. But that 1 time out of 10, it doesn't. So we still got good lift. I was hoping for a little bit more, to be honest, but her hair was a little bit more resistant. But if you haven't checked out my custom consultation process, check that out, because that has been a game changer in my business with setting up expectations with clients. But you can see 1 toner all over because the blend is built into her hair, so I don't have to worry about shadow rooting. And then we have the final look coming up here real quick. I can't wait to show you. So once again, if you stress out over expectations, or you've had those sweaty times at the sink where you're like, oh my gosh, I should have told her that her hair might turn out, or should have told her that this might be this way, go ahead and check that thing that's just popped up in the top right corner about how to do custom consultations. You are going to love it. All right, you ready for this? Boom. Doesn't it look beautiful. We got some really nice dimension. It's soft, it's subtle, but it's also punchy. I love that like when people see here her shoe, they'll notice something different, but for the first time coloring her hair, it's not overwhelming. It's brightened her up, it's given her dimension, it's cooled it down, it's given her some light pieces, and it's gonna wash and wear so well. Literally, she doesn't have to color her hair ever again if she doesn't want to, but she can keep maintaining it if she does. I'm so happy with it.
There you go, the simplest brunette balayage. It's really that easy. So I wanna know, are you gonna try this in the salon or have you? And if you wanna know more about the balayage techniques, go ahead and look in the description. I've left a link to my Hair Painting Outside the Lines program. Now, if you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I can't wait to interact with you down there. See you soon, friend.